Hi everybody, welcome to the show. Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel. This is Raising A to Z. It is a YouTube channel all about homeschooling. My name is Amanda. I am a teacher-turned-homeschool mom, and I'm here to answer your questions on homeschooling. A question that I get asked all the time is how long do you homeschool for? How long of a day do you guys spend doing your homeschooling? How long are you guys sitting down and doing your homeschooling? The answer might surprise you. You might be really surprised because it's actually probably going to be a lot less than you would expect. But first, if you are new to homeschooling, you're looking to get started, you have questions about schedules and planning and materials and approaches and all those kinds of things, you might be interested in picking up my book, How to Start Homeschooling When You Have No Idea to Start. It is the perfect book for any new homeschooler to give you all the information you need to get started and get you onto your own homeschooling journey. How long does a homeschool day look like? How many hours are you spending homeschooling your kids? The answer might shock you. It might be a little bit surprising to learn how little homeschooling takes in terms of time. One of the reasons it takes so little time is because you don't have to deal with all of the bureaucracy that comes with school. You don't have to wait for all the kids to arrive at a certain time. You don't have to wait for the entire class to be finished before you can move on. You don't have to wait for kids to line up, move from class to class between subjects. There's just so many things that you just don't have to do because you are in your own home and you are moving at your own pace and at your kids' pace, that you really get to condense a school day into a much smaller amount of time. And it really does happen. You would be shocked to see what my kids are producing at home versus what's happening in the school system. They're learning about the same, but their time, my kids' time in a educational Seatwork time is significantly smaller than what kids in a public school system are doing. So how long should your Seatwork time be? So that's something I want to clarify. When I'm talking about how long my homeschool day is, I'm talking specifically right now about Seatwork, where my kids are sitting down doing work out of a workbook or some curriculum, worksheets, practice work, tracing, writing, anything like that, where they are sitting at a table doing that kind of work. This is what I'm talking about. How long is that? How long are my kids spending doing that? How long? What is kind of the rule of thumb? So there's a couple things that factor into that, figuring out how long your kids are going to be sitting for. The first thing, and probably the most important thing, is their age. People would be shocked at how short the attention spans of kids are. I can tell you this as a teacher, when I was in teachers college, we were constantly told to be changing up activities and stuff because kids, even up until the 6th grade, have such short attention spans that what we're doing in most public school settings is just too much for what their brain can handle. Their brains just can't handle being focused on an activity for that long. So the rule of thumb, generally from what I've seen as a pretty clear consensus amongst a variety of homeschool approaches, is that you're looking at anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes per grade, even less for kindergarten. So a kindergartner might only be doing 10 or 15 minutes. That is how much seat work a child should be doing at that age for your entire day. That's not one block, that's your entire day. So for example, if you have a 3rd grader, your 3rd grader might be doing anywhere from 60 to 90 minutes of seat work in a whole day. That whole hour to hour and a half should actually be broken up into at least minimum 3 blocks. That's a long time to expect a very bouncy 8-year-old to sit still. I would be breaking that up into at least 3 blocks and having some kind of snack, recess, something in between. So often you'll see some parents who will do one activity, then they'll go outside and play for 15-20 minutes, come back in, do another kind of subject or activity, have lunch, do one after lunch. That's what you're going to be looking for, is having these breaks. I tend to lean kind of to the smaller end. I recommend 20 minutes per grade. I just find that kids have such short attention spans that unless they're really, really engaged and super into it, which if they are, by all means, keep going. But for the most part, I find most kids, their attention spans are just so small that it's not conducive for them to do much longer. You're getting into tired kids who are overwhelmed. They need to move, they start fidgeting, they aren't doing their best work. And so generally speaking, that's how long most people would recommend for. So that's one thing you want to consider when you're trying to figure out how much schoolwork your kids are going to be doing in a day, like seated work. Another thing you want to consider is how often are you homeschooling? So some families love to do a 5-day school schedule where they're doing kind of a Monday through Friday thing. They're doing it every single day. If that's what you're doing and that works for you, that's great, like no pressure. I would just say your time should definitely be shorter, because the point of doing more days is not to get through what you're doing faster and to do extra on top of it. You're just taking the same curriculum and you're spreading it out over more days. Because really, our goal as homeschoolers is not to rush our kids through grade after grade after grade. It's, so if your kids are working on grade 2, we're not trying to rush them through grade 2 and then move on to grade 3 faster just because you've added an extra day. So I recommend that if you are doing 5 days a week, you're definitely shortening your workbook time. And if you're doing 4 days a week, it might be a little bit longer, because that's just what your days require, right? To get through a grade-ish per year, that's probably what you're gonna end up doing. And it does make a big difference, especially if your kids are gonna be sitting every single day. Definitely keeping the blocks much shorter is probably going to work to your benefit, because they get to be done quicker and move on to other things. It's not going to seem like such a chore for them. Learning is not delegated solely to bookwork. There are a lot of things that you do with your kids that is learning outside of seat work, and sometimes that is all the mental capacity they have for that day. So for example, pre-COVID, we used to go to a French school program. It was a free program run through the French Catholic board at the school literally around the corner from us. And so we would go to that one, I think it was Monday mornings, and the kids would they had like a preschool teacher there. She did all kinds of stuff with them. And our kids did lessons on, French vocabulary and talking French and reading. And so it was like a 2-hour, hour and a half-ish program. And it was full of there was crafts, there was cutting and cutting, pencil work, gluing kind of stuff, which is a lot of fine motor skills. There was a lot of vocabulary and singing French songs and playing games in French. The whole thing was in French. And so we didn't do school on Mondays for a long time, because they went to this French program. That was all they could handle mentally at that age. On a co-op day, when we have co-op now, we don't typically do a lot of seat work in the morning. We might do one subject. We get through one subject and then we're done, because I know we're going to go and do other things later in the day with our co-op, doing other activities. Same thing on days when we have playgroup. We don't necessarily do as long of a time, because I know we're going to be doing other activities, other mentally strenuous things that we're going to be doing. There's going to be a circle time or whatever. There's other things that are happening in our lives that require my kids' full undivided attention, and because they're giving so much undivided attention, it's the same as if they were doing seat work. And so on those days we do less, and that's okay. The amount of schoolwork might be shocking. I'll use my family as an example. I have 2 kids, 4 and 6, kindergarten, first year kindergarten or junior kindergarten, depending on what you want to call it, and a grade 1. So typically that would mean Zoe, who's in kindergarten, would be doing about 15 minutes. Alexi would be doing anywhere from 20 to 30. That's about what happens. Alexi kind of rushes through her language, because she's very good at that and she loves it. She rushes through her language right now. She's done in about 10 minutes. I work with Zoe for her 10-15 minutes. Zoe gets up and goes and plays when she's done. Alexi gets out her math. She does maybe 10 or 15 minutes of math, and we're done our seat work for the day. We will all move over to the couch and we might read some stories and talk about that. We might do a hands-on activity later in the day. But for our actual sitting down doing seat work, we're done. So most of our days are homeschool planned activity days. On a home day is less than an hour total. That includes reading books, that includes having activities, that includes all of our work curriculum books. We're done everything in an hour, and we take all morning to do that hour. So it breaks up into different things. We might, like I said, we might take a break and bake some cookies, or I might go and do some chores while they have some free time. Like I said, it's about an hour is our whole day, and then we move on to other things. And that is a lot. The amount of curriculum and the amount of work that we get through in a 30 minutes of designated seat work as homeschoolers is incredible. I kind of joke around and say what my kids do in an hour is usually 1 to 2 days of full school, the equivalent. And it really, really is. Sometimes it's even more. Sometimes Zoe can go through a whole week of kindergarten curriculum, what she'd be doing at a public school, in a day or two. Because when she sits down, she's completely focused. If she gets it, she gets to move on to the next idea or the next concept. She gets to do the practice, and then she's done. She's not waiting on anybody else. She's not waiting on the teacher to be ready. She's not waiting on, there's no schedule where she has to stop and move on to a different activity or have a different teacher change. It's just so much focused, designated time just for her. She's literally clearing so much curriculum. 1 hour, less than an hour, 30 minutes really, is the equivalent of a full 1 to 2 days of kindergarten. Alexi is the same way. What does she do? Maybe 30 minutes, 45 minutes with, if we were doing a story and like some like reading and stuff together. That is, again, it's the equivalent of about 2 full days of grade 1. And then some. The amount of what we get through in that small dedicated one-on-one time is incredible. Homeschooling takes less time. It takes less time. It's more dedicated time. It's more one-on-one time. It's so individually directed that it just doesn't take as long. And so if you feel like you're like rushing through your curriculum and you need to be doing more, I would look and see if there's actually more you could do that is not Seatwork. Look at more passion projects, look at handicrafts, look at, life skills, look at different types of activities that you could do with your kids that aren't necessarily Seatwork if you're looking to fill your day. I try to leave my day open. I try to give the kids lots of free time, but like some parents need more structure. They want to include more in their lives. That's fine. You do you. Everybody is different, and that's one of the benefits of homeschooling. I hope this helped. I hope you guys now know how much time to spend doing Seatwork with your kids. And if you want to know how often, you'll have to wait till next week when I talk about that right back here on this channel. So thank you so much for watching. Make sure that you go down and subscribe and click the bell, and that will make sure that you find out when we put out more videos like the one I was just talking about. That is coming out next week on Monday. And if you want to see what a typical day looks like for us and how I plan my days and what kind of activities my kids would do in their Seatwork time, you'll definitely want to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, or TikTok. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next week.